Everyone loves a good light up Rubik's Cube, but they all come with one fatal flaw: battery life. This is one that I recently made that's controlled over Bluetooth, but I'm lucky to get 10 minutes of battery out of it. That's why I was so excited when I learned that there was such thing as a wireless LED. These things contain no battery, just a little coil of wire that allows them to receive power from a much bigger coil of wire that I have plugged into the wall and placed conveniently just out of frame. This is called induction, and it's the exact same way that your phone's wireless charger works. In fact, if you set these on here, you can see they start to go a little bit crazy. So why don't you say we take a whole bunch of these little things, dump them inside a transparent 3x3, and bam, we have the world's first wireless light-up Rubik's Cube. Is what I would say, except that the fact that these are wireless actually gives us so many more possibilities than if we were constrained by batteries. For instance, on a cube like this, all the LEDs have to be wired together in one spot down inside of the core. Whereas if you don't have to deal with wires, you can put the LEDs wherever you want, even inside the individual pieces as they move around the puzzle. And also, we're not limited by just white LEDs. We also have yellow ones, and green ones, and blue ones, and orange ones, and red ones. You see where I'm going with this? That's right, I want to use these little LEDs to completely replace the stickers in a Rubik's Cube. So instead of looking at what color is printed on the cube, you instead have to stick it under this little inductive ring, look at what color the LED lights up, and go, oh hey, that piece is red. So because I didn't want to destroy my old transparent force cube and rip off all the stickers that I so delicately placed, I went ahead and bought a new transparent 3x3, which was really cheap. As you can see, this is pretty much the exact same thing, except it's mass produced so I can guiltlessly peel all the stickers off. I also spent a small fortune on these little tiny wireless LEDs. As you can see, there are some pink ones in there. I decided on those because the orange ones were almost indistinguishable from yellow. Now we're probably going to run across some challenges with actually gluing these inside of the cube, so let's take a look at the pieces real quick. The center should be no problem. We'll probably end up just gluing them right on top of the screw, and there should be just enough clearance to fit the center cap over top. The edges also look fairly straightforward. There seem to be these perfect little plastic indents that the LEDs fit into just perfectly, so we should be able to just glue them in there really easily. The corners might be a little bit trickier though. It seems like under 2/3 of the stickers, there are these really convenient little platforms that we can just glue the LEDs to and then stick the cap over top. But for the other third of the stickers, there is no platform, just a big giant hole. So we're gonna have to come up with some way to mount that LED right up under the surface of this sticker. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get sticker peeling and LED gluing. You know, for an electronic Rubik's Cube, this might actually end up being one of the easier mods that I've worked on. Here we have the world's first completely wireless light-up Rubik's Cube. Obviously, it's not lighting up right now since our inductive coil is off, but we'll get to that in a minute. But first, I just want to say that making this thing was honestly even easier than I expected. Now, you probably saw one extra step in that time lapse. After taking off all the stickers, I actually went around and sanded down all the surfaces of the pieces. That was just to give the transparent plastic a bit more of a frosted look, so that hopefully the light would diffuse a little bit more across the piece, rather than just being a single point right in the middle. Then when it came to actually gluing in the LEDs, that went really smoothly as well. I mentioned maybe having some problems with some of these corners here, but in the end, I realized that I could glue the LEDs directly to the plastic cap, which turned out to be a very easy and elegant solution. Now before we light it up, I want to go ahead and scramble this cube just to get an idea of how impossible it would be to solve without lighting up the LEDs. So as you can see, a couple of the colors of LEDs are unfortunately distinctive even when they're off. I believe that's white and pink, but you're kidding yourself if you think you're going to make any real progress on a Rubik's Cube with just 2 colors of stickers showing. You could maybe get 2 sides if you're lucky. In order to really know what's going on, we've got to engage the inductive LEDs. Ta-da! I will admit, it is a little bit underwhelming since these LEDs are not all that bright. In particular, the ones in the middle seem to really not like to turn on unless they're really close to the ring. I think there's some interference there with the big metal screw they're glued to. But still, this thing has gone from completely impossible to solve to a perfectly serviceable Rubik's Cube. Looks like we have our first cross edge right here, that's totally correct. We have another white edge piece right here that we can put in real easily. Looks like another white edge right here, that is also correct now. And finally, we can get our red cross edge in just like this, and there we we go, the cross is finished. So it definitely takes a little bit of extra effort to find pieces to insert, especially since you can't just glance at the back. You really have to look straight on at that side for everything to really light up brightly. But for example, I can see a nice little F2L pair right here that I can insert real quick into the back. Then I just do some exaggerated looking around the cube until I find another F2L pair like this one, and I can insert that one real easily too. I think we managed to accidentally do a third F2L pair at some point there, so we can just do a few more moves here to get our last one in. And there we go, F2L is finished. Again, it's a case of look around at all these sides to figure out our OLL. In this case, it must be this one. And now it's pretty obvious that we have a J-perm at the back here, so let's go ahead and do that. So here it is. Here's what the solved state looks like. Again, it looks a little bit nicer when it's really up close to this inductive ring, which means it's a little bit out of focus, but looks pretty good. And I'm really excited to see what some patterns look like on this thing. So let's do a checkerboard here. As you can see, once again, we chose white and yellow, green and blue, and then red and pink. I'm really glad I decided to use pink instead of the orange ones because, well, good luck telling that apart with the red ones or the yellow ones. So the color scheme worked out really well. Everything is nice and distinctive. If I were to do this again though, I might use some bigger wireless LEDs just because they're a little bit brighter and easier to see. The only problem with these though is that they would not work in the pieces of this cube without heavy modification to pretty much all the pieces. Now I will say that without the harsh filming lights on in this room, the LEDs do look really good and plenty bright to the naked eye, but again, I think it could be improved in a future version. Anyway, let's go ahead and try out a few more quick patterns. Here's the classic dots, which looks pretty good, although it would probably look a little bit better if these middle LEDs like to light up a little bit brighter. Let's try a quick super flip just to see what that's like. So we just have to repeat this a few times around the cube, and here we go. All the edges are flipped around. Looks pretty nice. And finally, let's do the classic cube and a cube and a cube, which I do not know the algorithm for, but I can do it very slowly my own way. Ta-da! This one might actually be my favorite on this cube so far. That is pretty cool looking. I really love the idea of a light up Rubik's Cube that completely escapes from the need of batteries or wires, and also the idea that you can't see anything that's going on until you bring it close to this magic ring and it reveals all the colors. So let me know if you enjoyed this quick but very fun little mod, and if so, maybe I can make a better version someday with some brighter LEDs. Anyway, that's pretty much it, and I'll see you guys next time.